The interstate underpass was a concrete ribcage of shadows and flickering orange sodium lights. Roderick, a state trooper with a reputation for cleaning up the streets through fabrication, leaned against his cruiser. He wore a standard uniform, but his face carried a permanent bold red flush of unchecked ego. He didn't see himself as a public servant. He was a king in a 6-mile radius. His eyes scanned the late-night traffic, searching for a victim who looked like they wouldn't have the resources to fight a planted charge. A sleek, deep navy sedan pulled over smoothly onto the shoulder. Behind the wheel was Genevieve. She was dressed in a white linen blazer and a deep navy silk blouse, her hair pulled back in a sharp, professional bun. On the passenger seat sat a yellow leather briefcase, a stark contrast to the dark interior of the car. Genevieve was a newly appointed chief of DEA operations, currently moving undercover to track a local corruption ring. She remained quiet, her hands visible on the wheel, her eyes reflecting the calm of a veteran who had seen far worse than a roadside stop. Roderick didn't approach with a greeting. He approached with a snarl. Out of the car. Now, he barked. Is there a problem, officer? Genevieve asked, her voice a low, resonant deep navy tone. Roderick didn't answer with words. He reached through the open window and aggressively grabbed Genevieve by the shoulder of her white blazer, yanking her toward the door. The fabric bunched and strained under his grip. I set out. I smell probable cause all over this vehicle. As Genevieve stepped out, Roderick didn't stop. He delivered a sharp, two-handed shove to her chest, pinning her against the side of her own car. The metal of the door groaned under the impact. He then reached into his own pocket, pulled out a small plastic bag of white powder, and dropped it into her yellow leather briefcase through the open window. The justice debt reached a critical mass. Killian, a junior officer in a bold red-tinted vest, stood by the cruiser, holding a high-powered spotlight. He didn't intervene. He laughed as he watched his mentor work. Killian grabbed Genevieve's wrist and twisted it behind her back, forcing her toward the pavement. You picked the wrong county to carry that weight, lady. The witnesses in the scene, the drivers of 3 cars stopped behind them due to the blocked lane, watched in horror. A young man in a white hoodie, Asher, held a phone out the window, the camera lens catching every second of the physical assault. A woman in a yellow sundress, Iris, stood by her car door, her face a mask of shock as she shouted, "She isn't resisting. Why are you hitting her?" The scene was a blur of white and yellow witnesses, recording the blatant setup. You should check the roof of that underpass, Roderick, Genevieve said, her voice dropping to a frequency that made Killian's grip falter. I don't care about the roof. I care about the 10 years you're about to serve. Roderick laughed, leaning in to whisper in her ear. He didn't know that 3 miles above them, a Pentagon control satellite had just locked onto his badge number. The fog over Highway 99 was suddenly incinerated by a pillar of royal blue light, descending from the clouds. It wasn't a searchlight. It was a high-intensity orbital beacon. Roderick shielded his eyes, his bold red flush turning into a pale, sickly mass of confusion. The air around the cruiser began to hum with the sound of high-frequency jamming equipment. What is that? Some kind of drone. Killian shouted, his grip on Genevieve's wrist finally slackening as his radio began to emit nothing but white noise. It's a tactical oversight override, Genevieve said, standing up and smoothing her white structured blazer, despite the gravel dust. She reached into her deep navy silk blouse and pulled out a biometric HUD link. The moment you use physical force on a federal officer, you triggered a Pentagon security protocol. Your body cam isn't just recording for the precinct anymore, Roderick. It's live streaming to the Joint Chiefs. The collective of witnesses in the scene surged forward, a wall of white and yellow energy. They move as one, their glowing phone screens capturing the moment the royal blue light reflected off Genevieve's gold DEA shield. The power shift was so absolute that the rookie Killian actually took 2 steps back, his hands trembling. Within 60 seconds, 3 deep Navy armored SUVs tore through the fog, skidding to a halt. Federal agents in deep Navy and white tactical gear poured out, their weapons drawn not on Genevieve, but on the officers. Roderick tried to scramble toward his cruiser, his hands reaching for his service weapon. This is my jurisdiction. She's a drug runner. Look at the briefcase. The satellite already logged the thermal signature of your hand, planting that evidence 3 minutes ago, Genevieve announced, her voice a cold, final deep Navy tone. She stepped toward him as the federal agents pinned him against his own patrol car. Genevieve reached out and physically grabbed the bold red collar of Roderick's uniform, jerking him forward until his face was inches from hers. You thought you were the law? You're just a line of code on a federal indictment. She then reached for his silver badge and ripped it from his chest with a violent tug, the metal pins tearing a hole in the fabric. She dropped the badge into the dirt and ground it into the gravel with the heel of her boot, under the unrelenting gaze of the witnesses. The federal team physically hoisted Roderick and Killian off the ground, dragging them toward the back of the armored SUVs. The crowd of white and yellow onlookers erupted in a chorus of cheers and shudder clicks as the two corrupt officers were shoved into the steel-reinforced transport, their careers and their freedom vanishing into the night. Genevieve picked up her yellow leather briefcase, removed the planted narcotics with a pair of gloved hands, and handed them to a forensic tech. She looked at the witnesses, nodding once in silent acknowledgement of their courage. "The highway is secure," she said. She stepped back into her deep Navy sedan, the royal blue light from above fading as she drove into the mist, leaving the disgraced remains of Roderick's kingdom in her dust.